Okay, we're back, we're live, we're here at Research in Manoa. I'm Jay Fidell of ThinkTech, and we have two special guests from the university who are involved in research. Anuschka Faucci, education specialist in the biology department in Manoa, and Jim Foley, who is a marine science educator in SOEST, and more specifically in Seymour, which is the Center for Marine Oceanography.
Microbial Oceanography.
Marine, Microbial
Oceanography, Research and Education.
Research and Education, Seymour. C-M-O-R-E.
Correct.
Very important. We did a movie with Dave Carl, the guy who runs that place, only a few weeks ago. Anyway, so this is relevant to the boats, the ships, I don't know what you call them, the sailing canoes.
Yes.
Fair? Because you guys are bonded at the hip with the sailing canoes lately. So why don't you first tell me how you got to be where you are today? What torturous path took you in your life? Let's talk to Jim first.
All right.
Took you to this place where you are sitting here in the studio talking about biology on the two sailing vessels?
Well, I started out actually in undergraduate in college. I did a program called Sea Education Association, which is based in Woods Hole, Massachusetts, where you spend 6 weeks on shore in Woods Hole doing classroom work and then 6 weeks at sea aboard a tall ship with a full oceanographic lab. I liked the program so much, I got a job on there as a cook, just so I could get back on board the research boats. So I spent 2 years cooking before I finished undergrad.
What a great way to prepare for biology, cooking.
Yeah, got there and then
it's like a science course.
Exactly. That's just, and I got to learn the ships, learn the routine about the ships, and then was able to go back as a scientist on board. So I was teaching undergraduate hands-on oceanography to undergraduate students. It was rough, spent the winters that time sailing around the Caribbean, summers sailing around Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Had the opportunity to sail from here in Honolulu to Tahiti on one of their other ships.
Oh, that's not too terrible.
Yeah, not too bad at all. And did that on and off for 10 years. And
10 years?
Yeah, I took a little break for grad school in there.
Okay.
And then after I figured out I was spending too much time on a boat, I found the job with Seymour, and I've been out here for about 5 years.
What a great pattern. That's a great pattern.
Yeah.
Even Anuschka agrees with me.
Yeah, you like it. Yeah, it was a good way to go.
Yeah, okay. So you said you took some graduate program in the middle. What was that?
Hydrogeology, actually.
Hydrogeology.
Yes.
At dinner, my wife and I speak of little else.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but what is it? Yeah, something to do with water and
water
rocks.
And rocks in the ground, so water underground.
What has this got to do with, biology?
There, not too much at this point. After grad school, I was like, I needed to go back to the biology at sea, so I was kind of drawn to that. So that's why after grad school, I went back to the boats and did more work at sea.
Well, let me take a wild guess, a flyer, if you will. So there is a common denominator. First, they're both science.
Yes.
And you have to use scientific method in both.
Correct.
Secondly, I've come to believe that there are the laws of physics, the physics of our universe. And although they're entirely different in terms of discipline, there are immutable underlying laws of physics that apply to all science that we know. Am I right?
Yes.
And so there is a common denominator on
yes.
that basis. Yeah.
And there's a common, method of studying. So
that's the third thing.
Third thing, yes, as well.
You think you'll stick with biology, or are you going to go into something else after this?
Biology seems pretty good for now.
Yeah. So you're well into your career, would you say?
Yeah. And more of the education outreach realm.
Yeah. It seems like a lot of people come, from the university every week. We have somebody, and it seems like to me at a certain point in your career, you're kind of committed. A switch flicks, and it's for you. It's biology. That's what it is, and you're probably not going to go, back to science of rocks and water.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah, it'd be a little tough at this point.
And the only question is taking what you're working on today and evolving it into something more specific, maybe more pushing the envelope, what have you, more unique later. That's the question. So focusing it down rather than out.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oof, that was interesting.
I was.
Okay, Anuschka. That
Yes.
sounds Russian. If I
It sounds Russian, but I grew up in Switzerland actually.
Ah, so it's
Yeah.
Schweizdeutsch kind of.
Yes,
word. Yeah,
Schweizerdeutsch.
okay. And Fauci is Italian.
My dad is Italian.
Yeah.
So
Okay, wonderful.
yeah. So I spent many summers sailing, camping, snorkeling in the
You're an
Mediterranean.
outdoors person. You both are, I guess.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So yes. So that's how I got, I guess.
Well, people in Europe, especially in Switzerland and Austria, really walk a lot, don't they? They're strong walkers.
Yeah.
They hike mountains for breakfast, yeah.
They do. Yeah.
Yeah. You still do that?
Well, we, as I said, most of my friends would do that on vacation. We would spend our vacation in the Mediterranean and go spend in the water and, walk along beaches and on rocks along
Yeah,
beaches.
like for 27 miles, right? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not. We'd sail,
Okay.
We would just
I
live on a
see.
sailing boat.
We're going to
so.
get to that in a little while, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you get from there, to
To here.
yeah, to becoming an educational specialist in, wait, let me get this right, I may have it wrong. Yeah, in the biology department. Yeah.
Well, as I said, I grew up kind of spending lots of time outside Mediterranean. Even though I did all my schooling and undergrad in biology in Switzerland, I ended up doing a master's in Italy and then decided on benthic ecology. So I then
in England, did you say?
in Italy,
In
in the
Italy.
southern Italy,
Okay.
in the Mediterranean.
What school?
Well, it was part of the University of Basel, but I did my research project in Lecce, down in the heel of Italy.
So you were running through the European system in those days.
Yes.
How different is it, to get a master's degree in science? or
Well,
a
at the
PhD?
time, I think it changed now because there was this PISA reform which tried to adjust the European systems to more the American system. So when I went to school in Switzerland, there was no bachelor's. You were directly doing a diploma, it was called at the time,
Which was
kind
really
of like a master's.
advanced.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you knew early on that you were going to go into biology.
I did. Well, not early on. I mean, it was, I think, maybe last year of high school. I was like, yes, I actually want to do
that's early on.
biology.
Yeah.
Well, we have to decide. I think we don't start college till like 1920, and you then have to decide, already a field. Like you have to decide. There's no general ed classes. It's all
Specialist.
special. Yeah.
So.
Kind of, you almost start like in your second year, third year.
Did you see yourself as becoming a scientist?
I liked research. I
When
always
did you
thought,
start having these headaches?
I guess I've always been curious. And actually, what's the funnier part is when people ask me, so you studied biology, you're going to become a teacher? I'm like, no, I'm going to be a scientist. I'm going to do research. And, well, after my master's, I traveled a little bit diving-wise, was working as a dive master around the world, and then...
Dive master? Wow.
I liked marine biology.
You always wanted to be a dive master.
Sounds great.
Okay.
It is great. And then decided to go back to school, and I came to Manoa, which was actually the only school I got in, actually, for a PhD, and got my PhD in zoology. At the time, it was the zoology department.
Why zoology? Why did you pick that?
I prefer biology, but because I don't think you can pick the two apart, botany and zoology apart.
Sure.
But that was the department where a professor was in Mike Hatfield, which took me in as a graduate student and
So
had funding for me.
isn't that a real truism? That sometimes you take a course or become involved in a discipline because of one person.
Yeah, I mean, I just was emailing out lots of different people, different schools throughout the U.S., that I was interested, what I was interested in, and if they had a space, would take on another grad student. And he's the only one which did, so
Okay.
here I was.
Was Hawaii especially attractive? How did that factor into it for you?
Well, it did in a sense that I like warm weather and I like the ocean, but it's also like right opposite from where I grew up and everything I knew was. I mean, for me, I wasn't even sure does Hawaii exist. It's made up by Hollywood, I don't know.
Sure, I mean, sure.
I grew up on the
Paper
other
mache.
side. It's like
Whole thing, yeah.
and
Did you find out that it existed?
it does exist,
Wh-
and I
wh-
like it a lot. So
When did you come to that conclusion? It wasn't the day you arrived.
it was before that.
Okay, all right, okay, just checking.
Yeah, so. Yeah, and then I got my PhD here and actually started getting more and more into, as a grad student, I started becoming a teaching assistant and got more interested in education, and then Actually, even before I defended, I got this position I'm still having right now, and
We're going to talk about that.
I like it.
So, do you see yourself as a scientist or an educator?
As a
You can
science
say both if
educator,
you
I think
want.
both. I think I'm right in between.
Okay.
Because they'll have side projects on either side, on either
Yeah,
field. So.
yeah. Well, I mean, being an educator is really huge in terms of creating a generation to follow
Right.
that will understand more. You guys work together?
A little bit,
A little
once
bit.
in a while.
Yeah, on occasional projects.
So Talia put you together for this program?
No, actually, that one for Hokulea we are working
That's Talia
together.
Ogliori in
Yes.
the Chancellor's office.
Yes.
Okay, so have you worked on projects together? No.
Kind of side projects through Hokulea as well. Like
Through
Voyage.
Hokulea. So
Yes.
Hokulea is the common
Yes,
denominator
yes,
for you.
yes.
Okay, so let's take a short break,
Okay.
and then we'll come back and we're going to explore Hokulea and Hikianalia.
Yes,
Yes.
correct.
Okay, we'll find out what makes them similar, how they contrast and compare, and what kind of science is going on, and how you guys are involved in that, and why do I actually care?
Exactly.
Right?
All right.
We'll be back shortly. We'll be back shortly. We'll take a short break. You'll see what I mean.
Ted Ralston, folks, host of our show at ThinkTech Hawaii called Where the Road Leads, where we talk about technology influencing the future of Hawaii. Technology, of course, is the art of solving problems. We always bring in interesting and informed guests who can see from different perspectives and different points of view how that future might unfold and how technology can assist us in getting there. So once again, join us 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock on Fridays. Ted Ralston, your host. And please, if you have ideas that you'd like us to address on this show, or folks who you think should be on it, let us know.
Okay, we're back. We're live. We're here. We told you we'd come back, and we came back, like MacArthur, if you will. We came back. Okay, and we is Anuschka Faucci and Jim Foley, both involved on these two sailing vessels, which we're going to take a closer look at now. One is the Hokulea, which is what, en route now?
Yeah.
Both of them are, yeah.
Both of them, and Hikianalia also en route. And where are they going right now?
They actually just got to Tonga. I forgot the exact island.
I'm not
Now, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Tonga. They just left Samoa a few days ago and got to Tonga.
So if you guys are so interested, why are you not on those vessels, or one of them, or the other of them, right now?
Well, it's not. There's actually, the crews are pretty small. They're like 12 to 14, I think, crew members
No
per
room.
vessel. Yeah, there's a different crew, members.
So if they had
for the
offered
different
you
legs.
a berth on these sailing vessels, you would have taken that berth?
Yes, I would have.
Probably yes.
Yes. Why? What makes it so interesting for you to spend, what is it, what do they spend, 3-4 months more?
No, it's between 2 and 5 weeks.
Oh, okay. Why would you spend that much time as a scientist on one of these sailing vessels?
I think it's just with the cultural aspect of the canoes, the reawakening, just trying to learn more about the Hawaiian culture, which the canoes are great teachers for that as well. Plus, just being out at sea is a great way to learn about the sea.
What is it about being out at sea?
You're pretty much focused on anything. I think it's, paraphrase Dave Barry said, all the worries of shore go away, and you just worry about staying alive when you're on a boat.
This is an important consideration.
Yeah, important consideration, yes. So
you're
your whole focus is on
standing
the ship.
there on the prow.
Yes.
They have a prow in these vessels. I don't know if they do.
Kinda, it's
Kind of little
way.
square
They're kind
prow.
of square,
prow.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're standing there, and it's sunrise, and you're looking like, well, you wouldn't. That'd be the stern if you're going. But anyway, you're looking into the sunrise or the sunset, what have you. What do you think of when you're on a vessel like that?
Well, I think often you're more in the moment. You don't, here we always think about what happened and what's going to happen and what you're going to do and all 10,000 things happening at the same time. And I think on those vessels out on sea, especially remote areas, you're more just living in the moment and enjoying what's right now, what's happening around you, rather than thinking about all these other things, which.
But I don't, from what you say, I don't get the notion that you're enjoying necessarily as a primary point the relationships. You're enjoying the experience of being at sea and communing with the nature that it is, but not necessarily saying hi to people next to you. Am I right? Where does that fit? Yeah.
Boats, you have a different community. On the ships, it becomes almost a family aboard. So you have a very special relationship with those that you're sailing with. Something that you don't share. It's like with 10 or 14 people that you have, and that's your crew for the time that you're out there.
Yeah, and it's a life or death thing.
Right, so you have to trust each other, rely on each other.
Yeah. You mean
with everything.
There's not a 200-foot tender following you, making sure you're safe and happy? No. You're by yourself.
It is.
If things go bad, well, there's a radio, I suppose.
There is a radio.
There is a radio.
But the help is hours and hours away.
And sometimes days.
Yeah.
And sometimes days.
Could be.
And the food, what's the food like? I always ask that.
Right. They have some, they have some stocked under, and the Oz have quite a space underneath, so they have some lyophilized, they have some rice, but they're going to do lots of fishing, and rice, I think, is the main thing.
It's fresh.
Fresh fish, and things like rice or other
There's no refrigeration.
There's no refrigeration, but then they are, there's some legs which are open ocean, so they're for example, when they left from Hilo to Tahiti, they were, I think, 20 days at sea, where you don't see any lands, but there's some other legs which is more like kind of island hopping, like they went from Tahiti to Samoa, from island to island. So wherever they are on an island, often they're welcomed by the community.
Get a free meal out of that. Yeah.
They do usually celebrate. I think it's more also they're so, Hokulea is very special in the Pacific to all the Pacific communities, because it was the first one which came back, right? And many of them now have their good, like, Polynesian voyaging associations and many canoes. Yes, so there's many canoes. I don't know, like there's about, I think, 20 or 30 canoes now in the Pacific.
Proliferation of the same idea.
Yes, and the Hokulea was kind of the originator again to kind of brought back up those cultures which have been gotten a little bit forgotten.
I thought, silly me, I thought that when Hokulea did its thing, that was it. Okay, we showed you it could be done. We went to the moon, came back, we're good. But no, that's not what happens. Somewhere along the line, a number of people started writing checks, and now it makes regular trips. What's that? How often is that? How is that funded, if you know? What's it like?
But
I think it's all over the place funded. I think there's some, like for the worldwide voyage, Hawaiian Airlines is a big funder. But there's lots of they have lots of grants. Like, for example, Kokua Foundation, I think, has some grants for education outreach. But there's lots of people just kind of donating their time and their efforts.
Oh, you mean to help them prepare?
Yes, I mean, everything is volunteer based. I mean, there's lots of man hours on volunteer basis, just because they believe in the vision of the Polynesian Voyaging Society and what Hokulea can do.
And they take movies, as I recall. They get a lot of movies. When they come back, they'll be able to.
Well, actually, right now you can follow. There is live maps. You can follow where the canoes are. You go to hokulea.com.
Yeah.
Or EVTV is on. Actually, Hikianalia is the technology platform.
It's newer.
The newer canoe. Yes, it was built in New Zealand. It has some solar panel. It has this big antenna, which is every day they send out videos. So there's live feed. There are Google Hangouts for classrooms, which can with crews.
Oh, cool.
I mean, how cool is that? Right? They send out little mini video clips, updates of where they are, blogs, all kinds of things while they're on the way. So it's pretty amazing.
Why are the two of them out at the same time? Wouldn't it be better if they went out in serial instead of at the same time?
Two reasons they're going at the same time. One is that they have an escort vessel. So if there's a problem with one, you have a backup just in case.
So one support vessel serves both of them?
Yeah.
So are they making the same trip, or is it different directions?
Different directions. Right now they're on a trip around the world. Part of their trip is Malama Honua.
Did you say around the world?
Around the world.
The two of them are going around the world?
The two of them are going around
together.
the world. Together.
So they can see each other?
Yes, they're always, and I think they're supposed to be, I forgot, is less than 6 miles apart or so.
And the support vessel can see both of them always?
Well, one is supporting the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Hiki and
One
Alia
supports
is the
the other.
support vessel for Hokulea.
Okay,
Right.
okay. And vice versa? Maybe not so much.
Not so much.
Yeah.
The communication is more on Hiki and Alia, and Hokulea is more the traditional vessel, where they
So
just have communications back to Hiki and Alia, but their navigation is doing Polynesian navigation.
what's the, this makes it more interesting to go
Yeah.
around the world.
Yeah.
So what is the route?
The route is they're going to be, the ending of this first year is in Auckland. They're going to sail this winter all of North Island because there are lots of communities throughout New Zealand.
Sure, Maori.
Yeah, the Maori communities. But then there's, for each, so there's always a leg, it's like about 5 to 6 months. And then they have some dry dock because they need to take the canoes out and make sure everything is in order.
Yeah.
They'll do that in Auckland, and then they'll head out. I forgot what their exact route, they keep changing to. It's a little bit, it's through Indonesia, Australia, and then going down to East Africa, and then they end in Cape Town. That's for next year.
It's a long trip.
Yes, they were planning to go to the Red Sea, but the Red Sea, the piracy issues are a problem. So.
There are problems everywhere. So
But the Red Sea especially.
I hope they can deal with that in case somebody decides to board them and the like,
Yeah.
There are pirates.
So then Cape Town, they're gonna stay, do dry dock and stay there for several months. And it's also the routes are also weather dependent. Yemen is the best for sailing in those directions. So they have to plan around those. And then they go from Cape Town to Brazil, Caribbean, and up the east coast of the U.S. The plan is that Hiki and Alia Hokulea will stay, and Hiki and Alia is going to go over to at least the Mediterranean, or at least the Canary Islands, and then they'll meet up again in Florida through the Panama Canal, Easter Island, and then back to Hawaii.
Major.
Yes.
They haven't done anything
No,
like this
so they've
before.
done all of the Pacific, but yes, so that next year will be the new.
What happens if
things.
somebody gets a toothache?
There's a doctor on board. There's a medic on board, Hiki and Alia.
That's why I asked you about the toothache.
Yes. So he will take care of things, or if need be, they will get medevaced out for.
They have a replacement. Are you guys involved in the replacement crew, just in case? In case they need a.
Maybe.
I'm not.
I don't know. No, I don't know.
So tell camera 3 over there if you're willing to do it, just in case it becomes necessary.
Of course, I'm ready.
Okay, ready.
I'm ready if my wife will let me.
Okay, now the question. Now that we sort of, I really love the picture you painted of this. So where's the science exactly?
So one of the things of the voyage, the theme of the voyage is Malama Honua, is to care for the earth. And it comes from the theme of looking back at the Hawaiian Islands as a example of sustainability, and that the earth is an island and we only have the resources here. So since most of the earth is ocean, we're trying to use the science projects to help more people understand about the ocean. And one of the projects that we've got going is looking at water quality. And water quality and oceanography, you think water quality, is it safe or not? But more water quality that we're talking about is the vital signs of the ocean. Measuring the temperature of the ocean, the salinity, the pH, how much oxygen's in the water.
Heartbeat, blood
Yeah,
pressure.
heartbeat, blood pressure, oxygen saturation. You go to the hospital to put a thing on your finger and measure oxygen saturation.
Right.
We're measuring that in the ocean as well.
We learn something new
Right.
every
Yeah.
day. So they're taking tests.
They're taking tests.
You've shown them how to do this.
Yeah, we've got an instrument on board that they can test the water samples and just take a water sample just right from the sink, so for safety reasons, measure out the temperature, salinity, oxygen, pH, record it, and then once it comes back, we'll be able to get that data.
So are they bursting it back to you by their daily broadcasts or what?
It's been more coming at the end of the leg. So after they do a leg, we're doing a little bit low tech, taking the data, writing it down on a piece of paper,
Sending the
sending
paper
the paper back. Yeah. So
I can't imagine how they could do this without you meeting them in Cape Town. I want to be
think so,
clear
yeah.
about this. You know, you have to go there.
Thank you. I
Where's
think
my
so.
checkbook?
Yeah.
There you go.
I'll go consult in Cape Town. I like that idea.
It's a nice place.
I haven't been, so I'd love to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're taking water samples. You want to know the vital signs of the ocean everywhere they go. And you're going to get this back probably on the back of an envelope in ink that is slightly
Slightly
smudged.
Yeah.
But okay, as a scientist, you can make something of that. Yeah. That's what you're going to do with it.
So a lot of it for us is using it as a teaching tool. So a lot of the students, especially in Hawaii, are really interested in the Hokulea voyage. So if we have data from the canoes, we can get the students really interested in that data and start having students link to the data that we have at the university to get more interested in the science of what's happening in the ocean.
Sure. And this is really makes your heart beat faster because it's everywhere.
It is.
It's going everywhere. And so here's a voyaging canoe that is, it may be hundreds of years old in concept, but it's now in terms of being a platform.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, did what Jim said, did he cover you, or do you have more?
No, I'm more involved. So I'm even though I'm at the University of Hawaii, I also have a little nonprofit with some friends for science
Doesn't
outreach.
everybody? Yeah.
Like everybody does. And one of our things, and maybe I can show the
Yes,
little,
please.
So our theme is
It's not going to explode.
No.
Okay.
It's very easy. It's just I'm just taking it out. So what our theme is plankton. And why plankton? I mean, I didn't study plankton, but plankton is any marine organisms that float, basically, which cannot fight swimming against the current, so pretty much anything.
What are you doing there?
This is a little
I'm not concerned,
mobile.
you understand. I just
This
need
is
to
a little
know.
mobile microscope, which uses the iPhone, the camera of the iPhone, to look at it, whatever we have. So, and one of those.
Got a shot of that? Can we get a shot of that? Okay.
I'm trying to just. We have something on here. So there's a little plankton, little crab, baby crab larva on here.
How did it get into the studio?
On the little slide. Prepared slide.
Okay.
So basically there's a little prepared slide, and then here on the cell scope you can visualize it.
So what's the power?
This is 80 times magnified. So these were microscopes developed by a lab, the Fletcher Lab at UC Berkeley, for diagnostics for doctors in remote areas. And so the optics are really good quality. But what then they have
But you
been
need the iPhone to look at it.
And you need an iPhone, but then, for
just
example,
another use for an iPhone.
another use for an iPhone. But as a doctor, you then could take a picture of a blood sample, for example, and send it to a hospital.
Well, I think I read about something like this. In developing countries,
Right.
where doctors have a lot of difficulty in making diagnoses, and if they could just look at the organism, they could make an eyeball diagnosis about what it is. Then this could save somebody's life. Yeah.
Right. So and they have lots of adapters for the iPhone to look at eyes, ears, where imaging is important. So they do these things. But now they started using it, and we got some from them, through them, for outreach. Because I don't know, kids, especially little kids, looking through the scope, right? It's hard. And then it's hard to show each other what you see, and it's not very user friendly.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm so
this.
interested. I'm really, really interested. And I believe that people watching are probably equally very, really interested. And that's why, right now, at the height of interest, we're going to take a break.
Okay.
Okay, make them stay right there, everybody. That's Anuschka Faucci. She's an education specialist in the biology department at UH Manoa, and Jim Foley, who is a marine science educator in SOEST, more specifically in Seymour, which is the Center for Microbial and Ocean Research and Education. Okay, which is part of SOEST. We'll be right back, and we'll talk more about this microscope and all the things you can see and learn right after this short break.
Aloha, I'm Keli'i Akina, president of the Grassroot Institute. One of the things I love being, however, is the host of the weekly program on ThinkTech Hawaii called E Hana Kako, which means let's work together. I get to interview movers and shakers in our town and across the world so that you and I together can learn and to grow. Please join me every Monday from 2 to 3 p.m. or watch us on the recording, www.thinktechhawaii.com. Aloha and e hana kako. Let's work together.
Okay, I want you to ignore the net thing for a minute, because Anuschka has to finish with the microscope.
Well, it's all tied in. It's all tied in. So the microscope is used for education outreach. We use it with kids here, and actually one of those is on Hikianalia and doing the worldwide voyage for us. So in some ways, I am there a little bit.
You're there by proxy.
Yes, by proxy.
Of course, somebody has to charge the iPhone to make this.
Somebody
all
has charged an
happen.
iPhone. There's solar panels and there's solar chargers, which can, yes. But other than that, right, that's it. So we do outreach here on the islands with teachers and things like out,
So
beach parks,
send
outside.
Send them back by email, I guess.
Right, so what they do is so we're using the proxy of a plankton in two ways during the worldwide voyage and actually here with schools. One is as an image of plankton is everywhere, occurs any body of water like lakes, ponds, ocean, anywhere.
It's not the same everywhere.
It's not the same everywhere, but as a entity it occurs everywhere. And it's very, very important. It's the base of the marine food web, or the food chain. It produces about half the oxygen on Earth, which many people don't
Really?
know.
And it bubbles up through the seawater and
Yeah,
goes
it's
into
really-
the atmosphere.
Yeah,
And that's good for us. The more plankton we have, the better, right?
you gotta breathe.
That fights global
Right.
warming, right?
Right.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
It can, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right.
And then also actually it's kind of the nursery ground of anything you go out snorkeling in coastal water in the reef. At one point as larvae they were part of the plankton, so it's kind of nursery grounds
Larvae of what?
crabs, fish,
Oh,
corals,
okay. They lived in the plankton.
anything. Yes, that's when they hatch. They are usually first part of like 80% of organisms, marine organisms,
And they eat the plankton.
are in the plankton or are eaten by plankton.
Plankton will eat the larvae.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so I don't feel so good about plankton as I did a minute ago.
Well,
let
but
me
then
ask-
fish to grow eat plankton.
Okay, fair enough. So it's
It is
mutual.
part. It's a
mutual.
part of a whole ecosystem.
But I think I'd like to know if I could eat plankton. Don't answer that, because we have among us a cook who can help.
Yes.
So do you ever make scrambled eggs a la plankton?
We have before, actually, up in northern waters, where you get a very one type of plankton or lots of the same thing. We'll just scramble it up with the eggs, usually like a copepod fricassee.
That was a wild guess.
Oh yeah. Well, when you're out at sea for 28 days, you start getting
Right.
creative.
It starts to look good.
Yeah, yeah.
What does it taste like?
Very salty.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you like that,
Yeah.
actually. You don't have to have salt on your eggs.
No, just use little plankton.
Okay, I interrupted you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, that's fine. So we use that as just to show why Malama Honua take care of island Earth, and we got to take care of the ocean because there is this plankton, but you can't see it, right? So the kids go like, I don't know.
You can't see plankton?
It's microscopic. So
Doesn't it
it's
grow in big green
small.
swatches all over the place?
You can see it if it's lots of it, but usually
You can't.
you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, there are different kinds.
Yes.
What are the variables from ocean to ocean, sea to sea?
Well, that's where
Yeah,
water quality
okay.
comes back
Let's
in.
talk to a biologist. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You're the biologist.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's fine.
Okay, well, let's talk to
Oceanographer.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Okay. So different types of plankton where you see it around where we have around Hawaii, often in the reefs, there's a low plankton. We got nice clear water. If we had a lot of plankton, we start getting green water. That's not so good for the reefs. But in offshore here, we've got oligotrophic water, which means it's very low plankton, and they still lose the bigger plankton. There's a lot of small microscopic things. That's what Seymour tries to study, is the microscopic community out in the ocean.
Mhm.
But say up in northern waters off of Alaska or the west coast, we've got a lot of high nutrients in the water. So the plants, the phytoplankton, need those nutrients to grow.
And the whole food chain
The whole food
benefits
chain's
by
from
that.
Yes, so the whales that we have visit us in the winter go up to Alaska and they feed off these plankton blooms. So
They don't need their eggs or anything.
they eat whatever's in the water.
Whatever comes
Whatever
in. They're
comes
not
up,
very
yeah.
specific. They're
So
not
if I go to
picky.
this, I forget what you call it, omnitropic, the kind of water that doesn't have much plankton,
Oligotrophic, yes.
oligotrophic, is like Johnny Appleseed. Could I throw plankton off the ship and grow the plankton there and improve the environment?
Well, one thought when people are trying to do experiments is not throw plankton off, but throw nutrients off,
Yeah.
or iron fertilization.
And that'll
try to
help the
experiment.
plankton.
The thought is, will that help the plankton?
Will it?
Thought so far is you put nutrients in, the more plankton will grow.
Ah.
But the question is this ecosystem is very old, and if you start changing the ecosystem by adding nutrients,
You don't
what
know
else is going to
what's
change?
gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's part of the research going on, is trying to see if we do add nutrients, what changes and how will that affect us.
Okay, so what do you got under the table there, Jim?
So under the table, we've got is a plankton net.
Yeah.
So this is a plankton net. This is what's used. This is similar to the ones on Hokulea right now. And you can actually go down to any beach, just go to Waikiki, wade about waist deep in the water and catch plankton to view on the microscope.
I could take this down to Waikiki
You could
Beach.
take this down, yeah.
You
I
think
even
they
taken
would
it
think
all
I was
line.
doing something pretty strange?
Yeah, I get strange looks all the time when I go down there.
Okay.
Some people ask what
I'm
it
with
is.
the university.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's okay,
there you
it's
go.
okay.
I'm a UH.
I mean, then as soon as they say that, they're like, oh, okay.
Just wear a UH shirt with the seal and everything.
Yeah.
Yep. And this is actually part of our plankton kit. So we've got 11 sets of kits throughout Hawaii, which teachers can check out and borrow for free. So they can check out a plankton net, check out a microscope. The microscope comes with a computer.
Make your day worthwhile.
So they could go catch the plankton, show their entire class, and compare the plankton that they catch near us with the plankton on Hokulea.
So they come back, somebody comes back and gives you a lot of plankton
Yes.
in little specimen jars, I guess, and they tell you where they found it and everything.
Yeah.
You ever use GPS on this to be able to determine where it came from?
You know, I think now it just does it automatically, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
When it
Yeah,
sends a
because if you,
message
you know,
back.
if you
the pictures.
download the pictures on if you use iPhoto
Yeah,
on a
yeah.
Mac, it'll just tells
Tell
you
you
where
longitude,
it was, where
latitude,
you, yes,
all that.
yes.
So in the case of your net, you actually have to make a written note
You have to make a note,
about
yes.
where you found it. So these guys now, every day, I guess, or some protocol, are collecting plankton from one or the other of those ships, and they're putting it in a jar, and when they get to the next big city, they put it in a box and send it back to you. Is that what?
Actually, we don't collect because that are really because it's, you know, collecting adds a whole new one space, and then you got to do
Yeah,
something
sure.
with it, and then permits, right? Wherever you are, you need permits for
Ooh,
collecting,
ooh,
so it gets
invasive
complicated.
species, whatnot, yeah.
It gets complicated,
Yeah.
and they don't have much space on
Yeah.
the ships.
Yeah.
Because they use lots of space for water for the crew members, for
Yeah,
example,
yeah.
and things like that, and food, sails. So what we do is more using it in ports as an outreach, just to show, look, you don't see them, but here we catch it, we use the telescope to visualize it, and then the kids get just so excited about it. But then also they take pictures.
Of
We
the
show them
plankton that
of
comes back in this,
plankton,
Yeah.
okay.
and
call
then
it
they'll
a
send them
It's a
me-
Foley web.
Ah.
No, okay,
Ah,
whatever you
yeah.
want to call it.
And then they send me the pictures, and I usually send it out to, I know, you know, for example, the worms, I know a graduate student studies those, and there is a postdoc studying Copepods, so they give me more information.
So you
like
can identify it from
identify
the picture.
them and give them some, often they can give me some about their ecology and their life history, which I can give back to whoever is on Hokulea and does the sign blog. So they do blogging every leg.
Mhm.
So they can include some of the background of these plankton they found on
Okay.
their ship. So
Okay,
that's kind of
so-
where we're at. And then,
It's step one, really.
Yes.
I mean, this is just the observer part of it.
exactly.
But you'll probably increase the amount of information you're getting. And tell me, is this a good time to play the movie, the Plankton
Yes.
movie?
That would be a good time.
That would be a
This,
good time.
this was shown at the International Film Festival
Oh, yeah.
in Sundance.
Won many awards.
Okay, let's play the let's play the movie.
Yeah, just to get some idea how plankton looks like.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Now, you can try to describe it even though it's not on the monitor.
he knows
You
it
can
better.
try to describe what's on the movie.
Yeah, I know. It was most of the movie. There's some still shots of different types of plankton. Plankton actually has a really wide size range. So from microscopic bacteria up to large jellyfish are also planktonic. And what you see, it looks like little grains of rice swimming around in there. Those are copepods. Those are probably and any oceanic tour I've done, they're everywhere. You always find a copepod. Kind of like the base of the food web for the larger organisms.
Some people think that plankton looks like sperm.
Most people know
Is
that.
there any truth to that?
Most of them are bigger.
Most of them are bigger. They don't. They more have legs
Yeah.
and swimming that way. I don't know many.
No.
It actually looks like little tails that swim.
Okay, okay.
Not so much.
So you always get pictures like this with a microscope?
Yeah, with a microscope, it was shot with, most of the pictures are filmed with a microscope that teachers can borrow and use. And I think they look like little grains of rice with antenna. And most students have a really good idea of what plankton is from a SpongeBob character called Plankton, which is green with one eye and antenna.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Like a cartoon character.
Like a cartoon character,
An
exactly.
avatar.
Yes,
Okay, well, how long through the movie are we now?
I can't tell.
It's okay. I mean, it's just to give some ideas of the. I mean, the cool thing is the forms are really crazy, and I think many students or kids are not used to them, right? They look kind of like out of science fiction movies, and
Kids love that.
actually they love that. And actually, lots of science fiction movies take things from the ocean, right, and just make them bigger.
Yes.
So
That's one of the exciting things about the ocean.
exactly.
It's
right?
all got science fiction written all over it. You know.
It is. It does.
So talk about education. You guys are involved, both of you are in education. So where does that play out in the course of these two sailing vessels, the Hokulea and the
Hikianalia.
Yeah.
So in that, what we do, so we do these workshops around plankton. I've done lots of them for the Polynesian Voyaging Society. Schools come wherever. Like last year, we had the Hokulea was traveling throughout the state.
Mhm.
So I went to Molokai and all over Oahu. So we do these plankton projects. And so what that helps now that when we put the pictures up is that the schools who follow Hokulea, right, they get kind of a reminder of, oh, look, they found this plankton, I don't know, in Tonga, right? And it's similar like the one we saw when we looked at the plankton here.
Yeah.
And then what we're developing is using the pictures to do like kind of a memory game thing. So just teachers can use at different levels. There will be a workshop in, we're not sure yet, it's December, January, for teachers to use those photo cards taken by the telescope for teachers to use at different levels.
At the end of the day, though, you as scientists and as educating people about this, you want to take a baseline and you want to see changes. You want to see the quality and quantity of plankton around the world. I mean, if you can get the data, I don't know.
Right.
There's another way, aside from these two sailing vessels, get the data for that. Are you interested in working on exactly what those changes mean? Can you tell me now what those changes mean?
I think the interesting part with the plankton is they might see some new species, like if Anuschka sends it off to someone who's really studying a specific species, and they get a picture of a plankton that's not normally found, say off of Tonga. And it can be like, well, this one's usually found further south or further more the equatorial.
And that means something.
And that means something. That could be to indicate, well, that species likes certain water characteristics, and the water characteristics are changing. One thing too that's been noticed, there's a paper that came out noticing that plankton was changing, starting to exchange more between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans through the upper northern, the melting, the Northwest Passage.
What does that mean?
So that means that before, once the up north was frozen, now that the global warming and warmer temperatures, you've got connections. There's actually water connections between, and if you have new species coming in, you could have potentially invasive species going into different oceans where they haven't been before.
So, I mean, is there a plankton in your future? What I mean is, are you going to be looking at this going forward?
I think for me, mostly for educational purposes, but I think to me, as research-wise, I think there's plenty of people which have better understanding than me. What I like to do, use this basically as a hook for students and teachers here and anywhere in the world which follow the worldwide voyage online, and then connect them to the research which is being done.
Right.
So to basically lead them, look, by the way,
Right.
so-and-so at this university is actually doing this research and found these things.
Right.
So that's kind of more where I see my
And this
role.
is the perfect place, the perfect base,
Yes.
to study it and to teach about it. Yeah. And we want a whole generation of kids coming up who know about it.
Right.
Well, thank you so much. We're out of time, I'm
All
sorry. Anuschka, didn't that go quickly?
That went very fast.
Anuschka Faucci and Jim Foley, both from UH Manoa doing research and education. Anuschka is an education specialist in the biology department, and Jim is in marine science education from SOEST in in Seymour, one of our favorite centers, if you will.
Yes.
Thank you both.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Aloha. We'll be back in just a few minutes with Kali'i Akina, who will be interviewing economist Paul Brubaker, mostly about whether the state economy will collapse next year. Aloha.
Uh-oh. Dun, dun, dun.
I know.
Like, whoa.
And you thought Plankton was interesting.
Yeah, wait, I don't know what that is.